on how to start communicating with your teens a bit differently if you're not already doing these things. Step one, make them feel understood, even if you don't understand them. Let's say your child is like fighting with one of their friends and they want to be on their phone texting or online, and they should be actually studying for an exam instead. Instead of saying, I understand you, but you have to study for your exam, you can say, I totally understand how hard it is arguing with one of your closest friends. It must be totally consuming your brain. I also get that you're worried about passing this test tomorrow. Let's sit down and think of a way to kind of prioritize your time where you can study for your exam but still address your friendships that are important to you, or something along those lines. If you are speaking to your teenager and you say, I know this, but that, they're automatically going to shut down at the but. And even as a coach, I try very hard not to speak to them that way, because I lose them. The second the but comes out of my mouth, we're done. So it does take some restraint, and it is really difficult, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes to just communicate with them. They may be like, sure, great, let's talk about it. And they'll be like, get out of my face. But you're planting healthy seeds and healthy communication for them, so they know that when they really do need you, they will come to you instead of going to the wrong person, or just shutting down and holding their feelings inside. Second tip, try your best not to get emotional. And I know it's really easier said than done. It's important to remember that parenting is a job, and so sometimes you really have to treat it like a job. Drawing boundaries for your children may not sit well with them, and they may be like, F you, like you're the worst mom, or I hate you, dad, or whatever. And it's sometimes really hard to let that roll off your shoulder and kind of brush it off. But if you do your personal work, which is really key in raising a teenager, if you do your work in growing and developing and getting to your next level, you'll eventually realize this is a job. It's really hard. It's temporary. But I've chosen to be a parent, and so this is part of the job of being a parent. It's like training for a marathon, and eventually you're going to get to the end of the marathon and be like, oh my gosh, it was so worth it, but there was so much pain involved throughout this process of training. So you do need to remind yourself it isn't personal, and to also do your own self-care and your work to help yourself grow as a person. It is not always about the parent. Children do make poor decisions, and sometimes they need to make those poor decisions, especially when they're establishing their independence, to learn that that's a poor decision. The third tip is ask your teen some honest questions. Do not ask them a bunch of loaded questions. Your teen is like chronically late or getting up late, and you notice they're like staying up all night watching TikToks and like Netflix on their phone, and like if they just stop doing that, they'll get up on time, and it's just so frustrating. You want to be like, what's wrong with you? Why do your friends get up on time and get to school and you can't? What's going on? That's pretty much going to guarantee your teen is going to go on the defensive and shut down. And that's really what we want to avoid. We want to avoid a teen shutdown because it's hard to get them to open up. So another way to approach it could be like, hey, sweetie, I see that you're having trouble getting up in the morning. Maybe we can sit down and discuss a few ways, or these are the 3 options maybe, and give them options so they don't feel like you're telling them what to do, and be like, maybe we can try this or that or this. Which one do you think would help? If they say none of them and shut up and I don't want to talk about it, you're going to have to know when to leave the party. But that's going to be a parenting decision. So you need to know when to leave the party and when to just kind of plant the seed and then see if it grows. And if not, try when there's another opening. And that's kind of being more self-aware and in tune with yourself as well as your teen. Tip number 4, and this is one of my favorites but very challenging. Don't let your child feel like you need them to be a certain way for you to be happy. If your child is like cussing you out and telling you how terrible you are because you won't let them go to a party or go out with their friends somewhere, and you feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm such a terrible parent, like I do so much for you and all you do is complain, and they see that you're sad and you're crying because, or you're angry because your child is not validating what a good parent you are. Instead, they're attacking you and making you feel like you're the worst person in the world. They're going to feel like they're in control and they're in power. When they see that regardless of what they do and say, you are going to be happy, you are going to take care of yourself, and you're not going to ruin your day over it, they're not going to have anyone to battle. They're not going to feel like you're trying to manipulate them. So they're not going to be in an argument with you because there's no one to argue with. So that again comes with the work of the parents. The parents need to know when to remove themselves. If your child is verbally attacking you or being an a-hole, you need to know when you're going to say, I'm not going to speak with you until you're able to have a civil conversation. So I'm going to remove myself, and you're going to go somewhere or do something. If it's a younger child, you don't want to abandon them in the middle of nowhere, but you do want to physically draw those boundaries as well as using the words to draw those boundaries, so they know that you're being serious and they know that you're not going to go into this back and forth war with them and fall into this whole manipulation. My final tip is, do not have a conversation unless you're both calm. You both need to get to that point where you're ready to have a normal conversation where you can both express yourselves and be heard. It's very difficult to be calm all the time, even as a parent. There are a lot of times where you're going to lose your shit and you're going to feel like you don't want to look at your child's face. And that is human and that is allowed, and it's not always going to go seamlessly. There needs to be a point of peace where you could both sit down and talk about it and find some resolve. And that is important in order to actually learn and grow from this situation so it doesn't keep on repeating itself over and over again. My name is Shireen. I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, turned holistic health coach, and founder of Health in the City. I take so much love and pride in working with the teen population because it is such a magical time of life. There's so many opportunities for them. So I hope as a coach, I can speak to the parents and maybe help you guys through this difficult time as well. Because if we work hand in hand together, it's going to help them optimize their possibilities in life, not only just physically, but psychosocially as well. And that can help them be more successful in all things in life in the future.